Sound like had some extra bass in it. Yeah, I like the out of
Little
town
something.
speakers. How are you doing?
I am well. How are you, my friend?
So grateful. I still can't believe we're in season 24, episode 197. I'm like, 190 what? Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
Getting super duper close to that special episode number 200.
yeah, it is. And
Right?
even though, we have the benchmarks and the things we look for, every episode is still really good. I
Mhm.
always enjoy our conversations. I always enjoy our guests, their resources, and the different things that I didn't expect to learn, and I
Right?
love coming in and getting my answers to the questions that I have for them. So I'm excited about today too.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, today I'm coming in from Asheville, North
Mhm.
Carolina, where I'm caregiving a dear friend of mine for her second knee surgery.
Yes.
And it's a little warm here. How is it in Atlanta?
It was warm and it was raining earlier, so it was a little cooler, right? So I put this on and it lets the air flow through, but keeps you nice and snuggly. I like that. But sit inside, it's a little toasty, so
Okay.
the temperature has been beautiful.
All
Beautiful
right.
walking weather and like get outside and take a few deep breaths.
I was just curious, and our guest is coming in from Boulder today, which I have fam there.
Yeah.
They gathered this week for my mom's birthday. My mom's birthday
Ooh,
was on June 2nd, and
really?
and all her siblings went in and they went fly
Mm.
fishing for the first time.
Oh, wow.
So
So
yeah.
wait, we got to back up. How many siblings does Janet have?
Well, now that are still here,
I hear you.
she has two. She has
Okay.
Aunt Rosie and Uncle
Mm,
Tom. And,
mm,
if I haven't ever said it on the podcast, I should say this. Like, my Aunt Rosie is one of the top 5 funniest people in the world. Like,
hmm.
she's
You have not
funny.
said that. Okay.
You're gonna have to when she comes into town, like,
Yeah.
she's funny.
Mm,
And she is my, Wordle competition also. So
mm.
our family likes word games,
Yeah.
and, so every day when I play the Wordle, especially when I do well, I
Yeah.
text it over to her with a little emoji, and then she'll text me back, and
Uh,
and we commiserate when we both
mm,
bomb out, and
yeah.
it's
Isn't
super
that the
fun.
game that you said you, Joe, and the girls were playing at the table and like y'all would play it in the house too?
No, Wordle is a word game that's like from New York Times
Yeah.
that's on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
No, we play Boggle or we
Mm,
play Bananagrams are our word
okay.
games that we play in person. Yeah, we're a
Okay.
huge word game family.
We got to
We are.
talk about it. I love like
Yeah.
little games and stuff. We'll talk
Okay.
about it more.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm,
It will get my competitive spirit going, so I have to be careful when I
I
play
hear
with
you.
friends.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for the warning. Hey, I get it.
I just have to check myself,
I
right?
get it. I get it.
And I have different friends I play different ways with, but
Yeah.
Aunt Rosie is one of the ones that taught me to be that competitive, so I can go
Mm,
full out with her, and we just
yeah.
laugh and laugh. And if we're playing in person, we try to make noises or trick each
Yeah.
other to distract each other. I mean,
Hmm.
it's one of those family things.
I
Should
love
we
that.
do our official intro and
Yes.
kick this episode off?
Let's do it. Let's do it, y'all. I'm Shannon Mitchell, a Black millennial business owner, the founder of Shalo Glow, an all natural handmade personal products company, and a champion for your self care, business care, and intentional wellness.
Hi, y'all. I'm Christine Gautreaux, a white social justice advocate, an international speaker, coach, and award winning author and publisher who helps you upgrade yourself and community care.
Yes, together we are Women Connected in Wisdom, a podcast rooted in the 8 dimensions of wellness, and the co founders of the Women Connected in Wisdom community.
And we like to get together every week with special guests for intentional conversations about how to be wise in business, relationships, and wellness. Like, how do we do it? How
Hmm.
do we do it? Today, we're
So,
talking about financial wellness. That one's
yes.
always fun.
It is. And, it just came up when we were reading through everything for the intro. And I know our guest asked me this earlier, like, what have I been thinking about when we were talking about it, right? And I've been thinking about these over 100,000 Black women that are now unemployed or in different situations, right? When we talk about financial wellness, how do we pivot and move from different positions, right? We were wondering where will we be after COVID? And now 5 years after COVID, to get that news, I'm sure it's
Hmm.
been a whole ripple effect in different things.
Well, and so many people in the United States are being impacted right now by national policies and things that are happening. I was just watching something really close to my heart is Job
Yeah.
Corps. I
Yeah.
don't know if you've had any impact, like any intersection with that, but we were actually
Mhm.
thinking about at Interplay, like
Mhm.
writing a grant for two Job Corps folks.
Wow.
And I mean, that program's been completely shut down. And
Mhm.
I was listening to one young woman's story. It was just hard. She was in foster care and had
Yeah.
gone to Job Corps.
Mhm.
And because they shut everything down the way they did, her next choice was a shelter, like
Mm.
in the same day, because
Mhm.
there was no plan. Like there was
Mhm.
no, and really impacting our youth. So
Mhm.
yeah, there's a lot of instability right now, and I know that what we like to do is provide resources for
Right.
how do we do this and how do we change circumstances, especially if we haven't been taught how to do it, right?
Mhm.
How do
Mhm.
we have that conversation about financial wellness?
Mhm. Yes, so very important.
You want me to go ahead and give our Women Connecting in Wisdom definition?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So, at Women Connecting in Wisdom, we talk about financial wellness is an intentional approach to your relationship with money as a tool. It includes stability with current finances and increasing positive financial behaviors like budgeting, reducing debt, saving, and investing. Financial wellness incorporates knowledge and skills that helps you to change behavior, reduce financial stress, create a strategic financial plan to reach your desired financial goals.
So important. We always talk about like what stands out. It's the budgeting, right? How much do you think is a good plan for gifts and celebration for a year, Christine, for like all the birthdays that you do, or like,
I'm horrible at
okay,
this,
okay, okay,
Shannon. Like
okay.
that is asking me that one on the fly is so
Yeah,
bad.
I
So,
understand.
it is so I have different ways I've done it at different
Yeah,
times in my life,
yeah,
right? When
yeah. Like
I
Ashley.
was a Girl Scout leader
Mm,
and my kids were young, um, my kids got invited to a lot of parties because I was the
it's
Girl Scout
parties.
leader, and so we were connected to all these, right?
A lot of
So
birthday parties.
sometimes my kids would get invited to like 30 birthday parties in a year, right?
Yeah.
And they would expect, like, it'd be like where we lived, it would be like a $20 to $30 gift. Well,
Okay.
that's a lot of money that adds up, and we didn't have that.
It's
So what
$900.
I would do,
Yeah.
I would I never thought about this before I got in that situation as a young mom,
Right.
because I wasn't a huge shopper. But what
Mhm,
I would do is I would pay attention to the sales, like
mhm.
at Claire's or at jewelry, like it's things that little girls liked, because that
Yeah.
was most of the birthday parties that we got invited to. And I
Right.
would go when there were clearance sales, and I would buy
Mm.
really cool stuff. And then
Wow.
I would repackage it. So I'd get it for like a dollar. Like,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
something that was
Come
like
on.
6.99 or
Yeah, yeah,
9.99. I'd get it for a dollar, and
yeah.
then I'd repackage it into a cute, like, little gift bag. Like, so I total probably spend $5 on the gift, but it
Mhm.
looked like a 20 or $25 because you know
Good job.
thriftiness is one of my values.
Yeah. It's a skill.
And so I probably am not the right person to ask, and I would
That
be
is you
embarrassed
are
to
the right
say
person
because
to
all
ask.
my friends, well, I gave you
Come
this
on now.
really gorgeous bag one time,
Yeah,
but I had won it at a
yeah.
raffle.
You
Now I'm
did. That was the
always
raffle.
honest about it. Like I
Yep.
tell my friends, like, "Oh
Mhm.
my God, this is a $300 bag. I got
Yeah,
it for a dollar."
yeah, yeah, yep. And no, you are the right person to ask, Christine. Do you see how much you just saved our listeners? Okay, we went from 900 to 150. Okay, our guest expert is shaking her head. Yes. Okay, like that is how you do it. And I'm so glad you said that because I'm thinking about my list of friends. I didn't even think about
Right,
the multiplication when it's everybody's list of friends and then all these kids
right.
parties. Like, it makes sense.
And
Yeah.
so I honestly have a gift closet
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
now I have some besties that if
Hmm.
they ask me for something specific or
Right.
something like that, of course. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I also know my friends. Like,
There
so
you go.
often I'll see something on sale and I'll get it for them and I'll put a little note. Now the trick here's the trick, especially
Mm,
with me being ADD,
okay.
not hiding it from myself.
Oh, okay.
Because
It's like,
sometimes I'm really good about buying a gift in advance and totally putting it in a special spot. And
Yeah.
man, and my mom used to do this when we were kids,
Mhm.
and I was like, "How does she like, what is happening
"Where's my
here?"
gift?" Yeah.
Oh, now I'm like,
Yeah.
I totally like,
Yeah.
I have put it then the more special the gift, the more special the spot.
I get it.
So,
And you're like, "I'm gonna remember it for this reason," and that
right.
reason you don't
No,
remember.
no. But then the good news is sometimes my friends get really cool gifts, like, when they're
Yeah.
not expecting it,
Yeah.
because I like, "Oh, I just" like
Yeah.
so my friend who's going through knee surgery, I
Mhm.
had bought this gorgeous scarf, like, at a
Mm.
market or
Yeah.
something, like, I can't even remember where I got it. It was
Yeah.
just stunning, and I had
Yeah.
tucked it away, totally forgot I had it. And
Mm.
then I was cleaning out a closet, I'm like, "Oh my gosh," and so
Yeah.
then I got to bring it to her,
Mm. Everything in its right time, and I'm sure
right?
you loved it.
What about you when you think
Yeah.
about gift budgets, when you think about
I've really been trying to figure it out. I think you
mhm,
need at least 500, like between birthdays, the
mhm,
holidays, especially if you're traveling and people are out of town, dinners.
mhm,
I would love to ask our expert guests, what's
mhm,
healthy? Maybe it's a percentage. I
yeah,
don't know. I'm trying to figure it out. But when we talk about being intentional, I know I want to celebrate. I don't want it to be you get to the moment and you want to be in this great energy, but this financial energy over here, like, ooh, but do I have it to do what I want to do? So
right? Well,
yeah.
and I'll tell you what's come up in my own life. Like, we don't go out to eat a lot,
Right.
right? But
Right.
I have a lot of friends, you being one of them, that when you like to celebrate birthdays, you
Yeah,
like to go to a fancy restaurant.
I do.
Well, that hadn't been a part of my life
Mhm.
before I moved to Atlanta. So I
Mm,
have to have a budget for those celebrations because my friends will say, "Hey, I want to go to this restaurant." And if I want to join them, which a lot of times I do,
yeah, you
I
do.
have to, be prepped for that.
Yeah,
So,
it's important.
right? Something to
Okay.
think about. So, you
Mm,
ready to read our guest bio and bring her up here
yes,
so we can have this
yes,
convo? All right, let's do it.
absolutely. And I had practiced the long one. I see both, but y'all, I want to give the long one. We're going to tell you more about Melissa and all the reasons why we wanted her on as an expert guest for you. Okay. Today we are talking to Melissa Hoyer. Melissa Hoyer is a certified financial planner and a life wealth coach at the Wealth Conservancy, a company that works with inheritors who have complex financial circumstances and are fed up with being overwhelmed or unsure of what they actually have. Her mission is to empower clients to manage their wealth wisely in a way that matters most to them. Melissa received her Certified Financial Planner designation in 2005, her Certified Professional Coactive Coach designation in 2012, her Professional Certified Coach designation with the International Coaches Federation in 2021. By meeting regularly for coaching and education sessions, she helps clients develop knowledge and confidence in their financial lives, navigate relationships as wealthy people, gain respect from family members and advisors, and lead fulfilling lives. Melissa came to the world of financial planning and coaching after receiving a BA in French from the University of Iowa and a certificate of interior design from the Harrington Institute of Design in Chicago, where she also worked in human resources at Arthur Andersen. From there, she and her husband moved to Boulder, where she began the next phase of her career at TWC, working with clients to gain peace and understanding with life's important financial decisions. This evolution of experience and skills is what makes it so natural for Melissa to offer a holistic blend of traditional financial planning with life and wealth coaching, helping clients to live in harmony with their finances and thrive in all areas of life. Outside of work, Melissa is a busy mom of a teenage daughter and an active, adorable dog. She loves hiking with friends, being in nature, making jewelry, cold, cold plunging, and belly dancing. She is endlessly curious about ways we can live in greater joy, well being, and harmony with each other and the natural world around us. Help us welcome to the stage Melissa Hoyer. Hi, Melissa.
Hello, and thank you. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely.
Welcome,
You're
welcome,
welcome.
welcome. I forgot that about you that you like to cold plunge.
Mm.
I
Mhm.
love a good cold plunge.
Yeah. Where do you get to cold plunge? Do you have a body of water near you or?
Well, I live in Gwinnett County, Georgia, which we have some of the most fabulous Korean spas in the nation.
Mhm.
And so we have cold plunges at the Korean spas. So
Yes.
we go and do the hot steam rooms and saunas and then cold plunge. And
Mhm. How
Yeah, no, we're in Georgia. We don't have cold bodies of water. Well, that's not true. The
Wow.
Chattahoochee is pretty
Mhm.
much cold all year
It is
round,
cold.
but it's pretty fast flowing. I
Oh,
have
yeah.
unintentionally cold plunged in that when I was kayaking before, but
Yeah. Like rapids. Yeah, yeah. That's what I think about with the Chattahoochee. How do you when you think about cold plunging in a body of water, how do you, be intentional about that? Because I usually go to Jeju like Christine is talking about.
Hmm. Well, I always plunge in a body of water because then I get to be in nature.
Mhm.
And I live here in Boulder, Colorado, and there's so many beautiful places where we can do that, and it's just
Yeah.
magical.
Mm.
So that's how I'm intentional. I actually don't go to the cold plunge places where I can sit in a bath
Right, right.
because I really just like to be in
In
nature.
nature. I love that.
oh, I'm so doing that the next time I come to
Mhm.
Colorado. I
Mhm.
love that, Melissa.
I
Yeah,
love
just
it.
like night and day.
Yeah.
So,
Right?
And, it's always funny, like, the parallels I see of things with us talking about gifts. I'm thinking about how you help your clients, right? The inheritors, they get this gift and they're like, I don't know what to do with it. Or maybe they had some type of conversations. And then what are the ways that you help them make it feel natural to them, make them, operate in joy and have balance and, like you said, have the fulfillment that they want to see with their finances.
mhm. Well, usually when our clients receive a gift,
Mhm,
it's a large sum of money,
mhm,
and it depends if they've been prepared for it or not.
mhm,
And it seems like a lot of times people come here when they've received something that they haven't been prepared for.
mm,
So they're in a state of transition
mhm,
and sometimes shock, and there's emotion that goes along with the gift at
mhm,
times if they've
mhm.
lost a loved one.
Of course.
Or maybe it's a trust distribution and they haven't lost someone, but either way,
Mhm,
it's a change and their
mhm,
life, the way
mhm,
that they knew it, will no
mhm.
longer continue in that way. It affects their relationships, and I think that's huge because that's what's so, I think I read one time that relationships are more important to our health than even diet and exercise. Like they're that
Wow.
important. Imagine your relationships being threatened by a circumstance that you didn't have control over is really isolating.
Of course, that makes me think, and I know a lot of your clients come from different positions, but it always makes me think about like when people win the lottery and they have those stories of like losing it within a year or two or losing all their family members and it sounds like it's the same thing. It's about the preparation and the what do you do.
Hmm.
Mhm,
Exactly. I think it's about the emotional preparation and the technical what do you do? Because
mhm.
money is a magnifier for whatever habits and patterns and beliefs are there. So if you add $1 million on top of that, everything is going to be exacerbated.
Absolutely. And so what I hear you saying, right, when you talk about the trust, um, and trust is something that I wanted to learn more about, so I was super excited to have it in my continued education this year and this go around for my license, right? And correct me if I'm wrong, but what I hear you saying is, hey, if somebody puts an asset or a life insurance policy in a trust, and then they make either the trust the beneficiary and the trustee the person that's organizing it and having managerial control over it, or if they put a family member or a trusted person that's close to the family that can have some emotional backlash or some type of situations go on, right? But then it's also the power dynamics and the shifts of who used to be like, let's say a grandparent or a parent that used to be the head of the authority and now this other person is in a new place of authority as far as management of the assets and all the things that can come with that. Is that what you're specifically talking about?
Hmm. That's
Mhm.
right. And that's a really good observation is that when you're doing your planning and you may create a trust, you might not, you might
Right.
have a will and name someone the executor who will handle things
Mhm.
at that point in time. Uh, Whatever it is, whoever it is that you name, all of those relationships are going to shift and change
Mhm.
in response to that. So being mindful of that in your planning
Mhm.
and the awkward conversations that can happen if you put your son in charge of something that they'll need to handle for their cousin and then they have to be like a parent to their cousin. So it's
Mhm.
a really good idea to be thinking through all those different um, things that come down the road that we're not always aware of when we're making the decision in the moment.
Mhm.
as well as finding the right person to do the job, the person who has the skills and who's trustworthy, and they could be successful in that position.
And so that's where I would love to go next. When you talk about prepared or not prepared, with your experience, what would you say is the best way to prepare somebody to be? Is it an inheritee or an
And
inheritor?
yeah.
Inheritor?
Mhm.
Okay.
Well, ideally, best case scenario, the person, whether it's the wealth creator, the person who's created a business that generated wealth that they can pass down for multiple generations,
Mhm.
or if it's the generations who are stewarding the wealth so that they can pass it down for multiple generations. I'd say the best way to prepare someone is to create a culture in the family
Mm,
where the children are raised right from the beginning being educated about money in ways that are appropriate to their age,
mhm,
as well as having the support and the family culture to um, raise your children to be successful in their position in life.
mhm,
And the culture is where it gets interesting, and that's where the family can come together and talk about what are the values that we want to raise our family in. And it's a little different than when a parent raises a child or the parents raise a child. You've got like the whole family, brothers and sisters and cousins, who are all coming together in this situation. So it's a lot harder when you have that many people involved.
mhm.
And Melissa, I know you're a parent, and I'm sure you raised your child with financial wellness and knowledge. Do you have any resources that you would recommend for our listeners for young kids and appropriate so they know what's appropriate?
Mhm.
Mhm. I love this book called Financially Fit
Mm,
Kids by
mhm,
Jane Godfrey. And what I love about it is she will go through each of the age groups starting from like 2 or something. And she lays out the basic financial skills that children should be learning. And in each age group, she has examples of the milestones and activities you can do with them to teach them about those specific areas. It's pretty
mm.
cool.
I love that.
I love
Recently,
that too. And I think about like if you've got somebody that doesn't have it, like they could go back as an adult and read
I
it.
think that's
And
exactly what I was thinking.
mhm,
Yeah,
absolutely.
because talking about compound interest to my goddaughter, I was like, it'll be good for her subconscious, but there's got to be a better way, you know? Yeah. Okay. Financially fit kids. I like it. What
Yeah.
were you about to say, Melissa?
Well, there's another book I wanted to recommend called Own It. And this one I just recently learned of. So, for families that have a family business,
Mhm,
this provides structure again at each age group of how
mhm,
to cultivate an owner's mindset,
mm.
which I think is pretty neat.
And it's very important. You know, in teams, we see the difference between people who take ownership and people who place ownership otherwhere, outside of themselves in other places.
Yeah.
Mm,
This is ownership for all of us, right? We
right.
walk down the hall and there's, a piece of trash on the floor and you pick it up. Like that's an owner's mindset. We're just taking care of everything, whether or not it's your job.
Right.
can I tell you that that's why I'm married to my husband today?
Tell us more.
Do y'all know? Did I have told this story on the
I don't
podcast?
think
So
so.
our first date, our first official date, we were
Mm,
going to a county fair in Texas, and it was back when you have Coke cans, like you would get discounts to get in, and we were college students. So we're walking across the parking lot, and he sets down a Coke can and he keeps walking, and I stop. And he stops and he looks at me and I go, I don't date litter bugs. And that was the last time he's ever littered. And he said I was leaving it for somebody to get a discount. And I go, we can leave it at the front gate. It's okay.
mhm,
That's a story that I always think about when I think about litter and
mhm.
picking up and owning a responsibility to our planet.
Yeah. And you told some version of it. Yes, I do
Mhm.
remember hearing that, but I like that version too. I like that
I
version.
he must have really liked you if he changed
He
his way in an
he
Mm,
instant.
really did. I mean, he really did. Well, because we talked about values,
yeah,
right? Like he was seeing it this way, I was seeing it this, and I
yeah.
mean, we laughed about it, but it really was a good discussion about what do we value,
Mhm,
right? And why this was a big deal. And so as we talk about like values with money and how do we, I love that you start with your kids young and have the conversation all the way up.
And for me, what I love about that story too is Joe is so sweet and considerate that he was willing to leave a can on the ground and took his time to stop to, to
For
save
somebody else.
somebody else
Yep.
money. And he
Yep.
decided Christine was worth, keeping over whatever stranger, but the financial goal was still able to be met, right? We
Right.
could do it at the gate. And that's how I think
Well,
about what
and we
Melissa's
found
talking about.
somebody. So you
Yeah.
know me, I'm a connector. I've
Yeah,
always
you
been a
are.
connector. I wasn't going to leave it just for chance that it could turn into litter. I wanted to put it in somebody's hand, right?
Mm. Mhm. I love that. And that's your all's purpose working together. You know what I mean?
Right?
So it's like,
Right?
you want to do this. Thank you for telling me this doesn't work for me. How do we reach the goal? And then you helped him do that. And that's what a wife
Right.
does. So good job.
Right.
Yeah. Um, so Melissa, when we talk about, I hear you on the family culture, right? I love how you say that when you think about like family meetings, we talk a lot about habit stacking here. So I think about what makes you kind of relax, right? A lot of people is food. So when we do our meetings, I plan on having like a little snack tray out, right? Invite everybody in. How often do you suggest that people talk about asset management, wealth management? And are there any things that you give them to make that process a little bit easier, especially if they're coming from a place of being unaware of what they have?
That's a good question. And what I like to do is work with the person who's creating this culture
Yeah.
to create a system that feels appropriate for them and their family and their circumstances and be consistent. I think that's the main thing. It could be once a year or it could be every quarter. I know sometimes, for example, the younger generations will have a job. So they can't always just pick up and go and talk about whatever. So just honoring the circumstances of the family, I think is what's important.
Hmm. I'm taking notes. I love that. Be consistent, and it makes sense.
I
What did you say, Christine?
Well, I was just thinking about because I realized that what you're talking about, Melissa, I've witnessed from the other side. I've been a part of nonprofits for most of my career. I've been a development director. I've had the opportunity to meet incredible, generous people who have family foundations, who, want to give to organizations that are committed. To things that they believe in and value. So
Mhm.
I was thinking about that because one of our donors currently where I work was like, yes, we plan on giving this and we may plan on getting more, but it's not just us. We have to take it back for the family and have the discussion or so even navigating that, the what organizations are important to you, what organizations carry out your mission. I'm just thinking about, sometimes that's challenging with two people. Then when
Mhm.
you get more, when you get cousins and brothers and family, like, okay, let me just total sidebar.
Okay.
What's the biggest family group you've worked with, Melissa? Like in numbers, like,
Question.
Well, that is a good question. And typically, I'm glad you asked that because typically I work with an individual who's
okay,
part of a larger family who might have a large family office or a big family. And I work with that person to help them integrate with their circumstances, to help them know what's important to themselves, and to have the confidence to speak up in those
right.
moments and have the wisdom to listen to other people. So to be a great participant in those kinds of family conversations.
Mm.
I love that you do that and you do that coaching because I think so many of our guests when they come on, um, it, they're talking about really important things, and your work in the world is really important. And I think so many women, especially, we think, oh, we should know how to do that, or oh, I don't need to ask for help, and that you exist and do this work that somebody can reach out and say, hey, I need support on this, I need a plan, I need somebody that this is their expertise.
Mhm.
I think is so valuable.
Mhm. It's really rewarding to be able to do that for people and see them flourish and thrive and get excited about whatever it is that they're up to. So thank you.
Yes. Yes. I remember listening to the audiobook at the beginning of COVID, Barbara Stanny's Secrets of Six-Figure Women. And
Mhm.
that's when I really started thinking about the weight and the emotional impact, right? You get, okay, sure, you have the money, you have the house, houses, whatever it is. And are you okay though? No, you're not. You know what I mean? So how do you um cope with that, like you said, the transition, and then this opportunity that you have? I know is so important. When you talk about that mindset that you work on that individual with, what are
Mhm.
the biggest challenges that you see your clients deal with?
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned that because someone can have financial resources
Mhm,
Mhm.
and not feel wealthy.
mhm,
So part of the coaching is to help connect those dots
mhm,
and to get a sense of worthiness,
mhm.
period, regardless of what the circumstances are with your
I hear you.
finances.
Right.
And I think we develop that through cultivating self-love
Mhm,
Mhm.
and doing practices that can help us feel calm, like breathing or exercise or drinking cold water, whatever it is to regulate, feel calm and relaxed. And from that place, then we can access our inner wisdom. And
mm,
I work with clients to be in that place because then that's where like the magic happens. And there's so
right.
many things we can build from there.
Mhm.
Boy, isn't that the truth for almost anything?
It
Absolutely
is.
everything. Yep.
When you think about every dimension of wellness, when you think about almost every expert we've had on here,
Mhm.
right, it really starts with us being grounded and being able to get out of our fight or flight and
Yeah.
be in our parasympathetic nervous system and just be with whatever it is,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Melissa, when you think about financial wellness, when you heard us read our definition, do you have anything to add to it? What do you think about?
I loved your definition. I was giving you a thumbs up. It was
Thank
really
you very much. Thank you.
Uh, well, I would say that for financial wellness, it's being in a place where you can do or have what's meaningful and important to you. So that goes along with your planning and budgeting and awareness and things like that. Um, Being able to manage your money in ease. So it's not a stressful time when you're checking your account or talking to your family or a loved one about money, but you can do that in ease, confidence, certainty. You may not have arrived where you want to arrive, but you feel like you know what to do to get there. And I would add simply being financially resilient to that. I think you mentioned that, but whether it's making sure you have an emergency fund or, maintaining good credit or having insurance to cover certain things like disability or life insurance if it's needed and things like that. And also developing all forms of wealth, which I think is really important. So we have communities of people who can help us. And that is what I think when we embrace all of it is what helps us feel wealthy.
When you talk about different types of wealth, what comes to mind for you?
Intellectual wealth
Mhm,
and spiritual wealth,
mhm.
emotional wealth, friendships,
Yeah.
social wealth. Uh, those are some examples of other forms
So
of
our
wealth.
8 dimensions of wellness.
Mhm.
Just instead of saying
Setting
eight
people
dimensions
up.
of wellness, say 8 dimensions of wealth.
Yeah.
Oh.
And it's true, when you talked about Melissa, like, owning the wealth, you
Mhm.
know, I was sharing with Christine earlier my financial situation, and what do you call them? The wealth creators. I'm a wealth creator, right? So I'm first generation, and my kids will be, the children and the grandchildren who have the opportunity to have experts like you on their team. But even though the commas and the zeros are not in the account yet, I know that I'm already wealthy. I know that I have, what we would want money to secure, The goal is now just to secure it and stabilize everything, but I have my loved ones. I have the opportunity to have physical wealth and go and run after the podcast if I wanted to and all these things. So I'm excited to be able to narrow it down to, okay, let's work on this financial literacy and the opportunities that we have in the businesses where we
Mhm.
are right now, passing the 5-year mark and growing.
Beautiful. I love that, because what I'm envisioning for you is that you're going to be
Yes.
building the financial wealth
Mhm,
from this foundation of already feeling and knowing your worthiness and wealth.
mhm,
So, wow, that's
mhm.
going to be amazing.
Thank you.
I love that. So, Melissa, when you have a client, because we've had a lot of folks on the show, right? Different financial coaches,
Mhm,
different, and one of the things that often comes up is they talk about, you know, the money myths or the things that their families taught them, either consciously or unconsciously, that may be blocking them
Mhm.
having money, or if they have money, in your case with the clients you're working, enjoying the money. Like, how do you navigate that with somebody that like has that, one of the ones that's really common in Western society is money is the root of all evil, right?
Mhm.
And so say somebody comes to you with one of those blockers,
Mhm.
what do you do?
Mhm. Great question. I think of this as like an iceberg, how we can see the tip of the iceberg and not everything underneath. So the process is to put on the scuba gear and just dive down, and from a place of just compassion, love, non-judgment, see what's down there. I also think of it as like going into an attic, and opening up all the boxes, like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that was there. And then through that process, which you can do through storytelling, I just ask,
Right.
and then I listen. We both listen for money messages, money patterns, habits, beliefs, wisdom that has been gained, that has been passed down. And then we literally just write it down. And that, then there's just so much awareness. So all those things below the water and the iceberg have become in our awareness, and we're more conscious of them. And then at that point, we can circle, like I'm doing this the old fashioned way, circle. What
right.
is it that is supporting you now in life? And what are the things that you're ready to bless and let go of, transform? And what new habits, patterns, or beliefs would you like to replace those with?
I love
And,
that.
and that's what I've been working on. I listened to this audio book of, what was it? I want to say like unlearning how to be you. I feel like I'm getting that name wrong, but I've been working on, okay, if this is not working, if I have not been organizing my QuickBooks transactions every month for every business how I should, right? What should I do in that time instead? And it might
Mhm.
be a new playlist with a new action, and we are going this way, to literally redirect it and work on the habits and um, the steps that'll get us to the results that we want to see.
Mhm.
When you think about, and I know we said family culture, right? When we think about setting up the inheritors, and I know it might be subjective based on where people are, right? If you look at somebody's situation, you're like, wow, they were well set up. What does that look like in your mind as far as, again, a generic foundation?
Well set up. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, that's a really good question. I think that could have a million different answers.
Yeah.
So I think just to like maybe make it in the essence, I
Hmm.
think someone's well set up when they've been loved growing up, they know they've been loved,
Hmm.
and that they love themselves,
Hmm.
and that they believe in themselves, and they can think for themselves. Those are my goals for my daughter when she went to school. I want her to know herself, love herself, and be able to think for herself.
Oh, I love that. And then how does that translate to the finances when you think about setting it up for families? Like we have a lot of moms or people who are intending to be moms on the show that listen to the show or our listeners. When you think about setting your life up
Mhm.
where your kids get to inherit something.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about?
Mm.
Okay, again, I'm thinking of maybe something a little different here, but I know with my daughter, I see her the most, I don't know what the word is, happy maybe,
Mm-hmm.
when she accomplishes something, even more than when she's shopping. And I know she loves shopping.
I love shopping too.
So I think, and me three. So I think that, um, especially when someone's inheriting, ensuring that they're having the experiences where they get to put themselves out there and succeed and fail and succeed and fail, I think is huge.
Mm-hmm. I
Um,
love that. And I think that you did a great job at answering questions. And excuse me, did you have more that you wanted to say to that?
Go ahead. Mhm.
Okay. Um, Answering questions that are so unique. Like I know it affects everybody differently. Even if somebody has businesses, they're going to be different businesses. People are in different places. It's hard to say that, somebody is well set up if that's not their situation. Um, and I hear what you were saying, Christine, about the mindset. What I think about is the love of money, right? It's not money, it's the love of money. And then our infatuation with it and all these things that mislead us. When instead, what I hear you saying, Melissa, is the love of yourself, being centered, making sure you're grounded no matter what, right? Because ebbs and flows, economy, bank accounts, variables on different accounts might change your standing, but you have to know that you are worthy at negative, zero, millions, billions, trillions, and all these things. And from
Mhm.
that place, you can go any direction that you need to go.
Right. It's
Mhm.
good summary. Thank you.
Of course, I love it. I also want to make sure that we talk about this because you were talking about. I wonder if I wrote it down. Yes. Um, so the emotional, right, and then the technical. Can we
Mhm.
talk about the balance of both of those and how you think about financial wellness? I know we've talked a little bit about self love and stuff, but a lot of times we get caught on the technical side. Can you go deeper into how you think about it and how you work with it with your clients?
Mhm. Well, you were mentioning something like QuickBooks, and it's
Yes.
not, you know,
Hmm.
so if we're not balancing both of them, we're not able to follow through with all the technical things that we think are a really good idea
Hmm.
or are a really good idea.
Right.
So I think the trick to be first finding, going back to what we were talking about earlier, beliefs, habits, and attitudes,
Hmm.
bring those up to the current day. And then um, take a look at how what are your actual habits, actions, and patterns, and how do you want to use your new beliefs or your tried and true ones to create new actions, habits, and patterns. What are your values in life, and how can you bring your values into creating the desired outcome that you would like to see happen? So really it's about shifting your mindset, because it's really easy to identify what the action steps should be or what the plan is, but creating an authentic and way that you feel excited and motivated about to follow through, that's where the coaching comes in.
Hmm.
So it's really kind of a dance of both.
That
It's
makes sense.
unpacking what are your circumstances, and always going back to the technical in this dance.
Hmm.
There's two things that I think are the most important things to get started, no matter who you are or what your circumstances is.
Hmm.
And that's to know what you have and how it flows.
Hmm.
So creating a net worth statement that lists all of your assets, like your bank accounts, your car, your home, your investment accounts, any business assets you have, as well as your liabilities, credit card debt, car loans, mortgages.
Of course.
And then you see everything you have. And then the cash flow statement, which shows all of your income, whether it's earned income or business income or trust income, interest income, and then all of your expenses and savings. Then you have all the tools. It's that simple
Hmm.
to have all of the tools you need to plan, to create a budget and figure out, okay, how much should I spend on gifts?
Oh, so what do you think is a healthy amount? What was your answer when we were having that conversation?
Well, my answer is what was coming to mind is the getting really good at choosing, because with budgets, you have the amount that you have, right? And then you start playing like, well, I really want to do this educational program that's going to reduce the bucket, or I want to get this much in gifts. And so when I work with clients, it's really just playing with that until you just find what feels right.
I love that.
I love that you named that it can be simple, because I think sometimes people get in their heads about it and they get caught up in like, I don't have this, or I have this, and really just taking it back. I think it was volume 1 that I wrote about financial wellness, and taking
Back
it
to the
back to the
basics.
bones and back to the
Mhm,
basics, and
mhm,
really that it can be simple and it can be fun. I love
mhm,
that you say play
mhm.
around it, like that we can play with this, that it doesn't have to always be serious and hard.
And Christine, it also reminds me of your chapter in volume 2 as well. You were talking about Lady Bird and her project with the landscapes, right? And so that's like
And
the
her values
oh
of
yeah,
nature, and
and the
how much it
beautification.
shifted the landscape of Texas when she
Yeah.
was made that choice. Yeah.
And so you looking at beauty reminds me to think about looking at beauty, reminds our listeners, so that's what I was talking about earlier, ladies, how I see everything tied together. Even Melissa, your work with French, right? Even though it's a different F word than finances, it still takes your brain, right, intellectually into a new space. Now you
Mhm.
help your clients and wealthy people do that, right? And then the interior design. I see like insurance and the setup of your financial foundation and the system that you're running. That's going
Mhm.
to run the design of your life. How much color goes over here? How much color and time goes over there? And when you talk about like being able to do and have what's meaningful and important. For me, when
Mhm.
I think about the generations, it's like if something happens, we talking about grief, we could take at least a week or 2 weeks off. We could take the time that we want and we
Mhm.
can choose when to go back. That's what I'm looking forward to. So
Mhm.
I've really enjoyed having this conversation with you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes,
You did as well.
of course. And we're about to go into our wisdom in action. So we have this conversation every week, right? We talked a lot about what you do with your clients and why your experience is amazing at you being the person that helps them with that. What do you do for yourself? And what are you focused on intentionally for your financial wellness this week?
Good question. Um, for me, honestly, okay, I'm taking a trip to Japan soon.
Okay.
And I have a lot of insecurity around being in a completely foreign country where I don't even know what the characters mean, and let alone
Understood.
the language. And
Yeah.
then that makes me nervous about everything, including money.
Hmm, hmm.
And I'm like, oh my God, do I have enough? Like I'm just freaking
Yeah.
out a little bit,
Mm,
because maybe it gives me a sense of security, right?
mhm.
Knowing that I've got everything under control. So I'm like obsessively budgeting for this trip. But what I'm doing is going back to the emotional thing, is reminding myself
Mhm.
you have enough.
Yes.
And whether the budget is X or Y, 5,000 or 20,000, it really doesn't matter. I have
Mhm,
enough either
mhm,
way.
mhm.
So for me, it's just shifting that scarcity fear mindset into abundance and trust and, being okay.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
Mhm.
Because you do, and this is why we do this, right? The wisdom in action, because you have to maintain it. And even you as a coach to wealthy, you're saying, "Hey, I have to remind myself to go from scarcity back to scarcity to abundance,
Yeah.
abundance, abundance. We have what we need every day, right?"
Well,
Thank
it's like Brene Brown said, we're all in the ring, like we're all doing this together. So coaches, we need to be in the ring.
Yeah,
So
I
yeah.
get it.
Mhm.
Okay. I love it. When are you going to Japan?
We're going on the 29th of June. That's
Oh, I hope
Yeah.
you thoroughly enjoy yourself.
Thank you so much. I might find some cold plunging or baths or something like
Do
that.
it.
I
Yes.
have to tell you, Melissa, like I follow a lot of people that travel to Japan because it's
Mm,
on my bucket list. It's
mm,
on the things, one of the things I'm manifesting.
mm,
So much fun on Instagram. I don't know if you do that or not, but there's so many cool. The thing that's coming up for me, because I'm an artist and I love funky art, and
Mhm.
they do this thing, and I wish I could call it up right
mm,
away what it's called, but there's little stamps you get in Japan, like
mm,
little hand carved stamps
mm,
that are free. You just have to know where to go to get them. And
Mm.
so if I find it, I'll forward it to you.
Please do.
But it's something that's I've got it tucked in some folder somewhere when I go to Japan. Like, oh, that's fun.
mhm.
Cool. I'd love to see it and go to Japan. It's so awesome.
Yes,
Right? Oh,
I want
that's my
to.
plan. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Shannon, did you say your wisdom in action?
No, I did not yet. What do I want it to be? I think that I like, and I could always make so many, but what are we actually going to do, right? And that's important. I've been talking about implementation. So I will say hashtag own it, right?
Hmm.
Because just owning the numbers, what are the numbers? When um, I think it was Robert Kiyosaki. I was reading one of his books. It was probably why A students work for C students, and I was like, I have to read this book, right? And he was talking about how people don't want to look at their finances like a report card. Maybe it was Dave Ramsey, one of my financial people I've been studying, right? And they made the example of not looking at the report card. I said my report card was fine, but I definitely get how it is in the bank accounts. And so I've been working on it for some years, and we're in this new season of transition. You know what I mean? So owning the numbers, knowing where they are. In business, when I think about the wisdom, it is the being consistent, right? Melissa, it's the marketing, the consistent nurturing I'm about to restart and work on doing for my audiences. And then personally, it's having fun with it. Where are the numbers at? Do we need to move anything based on our goals? And it, like you said about your daughter, it does feel really good to say, hey, we moved this budget from 125 to 75, not for scarcity, but because we see we can reallocate some things, we hit it. That feels amazing. So that's my wisdom in action. Own it. Hashtag own it. What about
Love it.
yours, Christine?
I think mine's going to be hashtag dream because
Mm,
we just, I can't remember if it's happened since the last time we went on the podcast, but I've just moved two of my adult children, my only two children, but my husband and I are now free birders instead of
mm.
empty nesters, is what we're calling
I
ourselves, is free
like
bird.
it.
So we're kind of doing a financial audit because we're
Yeah.
at a different stage in life, and we want to do some dreaming and planning, but I really resonate when you said have fun with it because sometimes I'm a recovering serious person. And so
Mhm. Me too.
sometimes like we get so locked in and, "Rah," and it's like, no, no, no. We're going to
Yeah.
have fun and we're
Yeah.
going
Have
to
fun.
dream. And one of the things we started just even this week is
Mm.
we want to take, you know how people have baby moons where they go before a
They have it.
baby's born, they have like a little honeymoon.
Yeah.
And we don't have a name for it yet. I need to come up with a name, but we
Mhm.
want to do like a free bird trip. Like we
Mhm.
want to do a little trip this
Mm.
fall for us being empty nesters. And we've had 27 years of everyday parenting.
Yeah.
And so we started dreaming because Joe loves astronomy and
Mm.
he loves dark skies, which we live in Atlanta, so we don't get
Yeah.
them that
We don't.
often.
We don't.
And so we've been dreaming, and I'm traveling this week, Melissa. So we've been dreaming by sending each other little different ideas of, oh, we could go here, or we could go. Like we're kind of flirting,
I like
literally,
it.
with the dreams of what could we do, and what does the budget need to look like, and what do we need to save to make that
Mm.
happen. And so yeah, we're having fun and being playful with our finances right now.
What do you think about this? What about a free bird flight?
Oh, a free bird flight. I like
Mhm.
it. I like
Mhm.
it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I like it.
I'm excited
Yeah,
for you guys.
yeah, we're excited. We've been holding it down with college and everything for a while, so we don't want to
Mhm.
go crazy, but we do want to have a little like whoa.
Yes.
Well,
You
maybe
deserve it.
Japan trip, huh?
What'd
Say
you
it
say,
again.
Melissa?
Maybe it's time for your Japan trip.
Right?
Mm.
And we got to save a little more for that one. I think this first one's going to be domestic, but yes, we have some big plans of some. So we love to travel. Well, I love to travel. Joe is it depends on where we're traveling to.
Mm, mm,
But yeah, we're just dreaming about it because things do shift at different times in your life, right?
they do.
And there's been different times that we've had the privilege of doing really cool trips with our whole kids, and now
Mm,
they're grown. And that's the other thing that I want to plan for
mm,
is I want to be, and I didn't grow up this way, so it is a mind shift for me, but
mhm,
I want to be a family that either once a year or every other year takes a whole family vacation with my
mhm.
grown kids,
That's
right?
beautiful.
Because I want to have that connection and I want to have that play and I want to have and I want to build that tradition with my kids and their partners. And I just it's something I value, and I'm like, okay, so in order to make that happen, I may need to make the planning
Mhm.
and the budgeting for that. So
Yeah. I love that you said that too, and that's what I want to encourage our listeners with as we round out the conversation is in Barbara Stanley's book, she's like, nobody's coming to save you. People are waiting for this white horse. She was the daughter of I think it's HP. Her dad was like this huge, maybe it's FedEx, this huge company, right? And she still too needed to tap into her worth and what the plan was and all this stuff. Um, but it's what was my point? You were talking about family trips. I can't remember what my point was there, but
was
what
it
I was
about dreaming and playing or
And what I was thinking about is our family trips that I've had the opportunity to take with his mom. We went to Florida and celebrated both of our birthdays because mine is May 17th, hers is May 21st. So it's right after. And it does make all the difference when you talk about the pace in the family. We know there's loss and there's work to do and there's trips and there's meals to plan and laundry to take care of and the yard and the cars and here we go with all the stuff. But to pause and say, hey, we're here. We're going to have a really good time. That feels really good.
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Melissa, thank you so much for your expertise, for your
Mm,
work in the world, for your wisdom. Thank you for
yeah.
being a resource to folks who need support along their journey. And we're grateful to be in connection with you. And we wish you all the best and such fun on your Japan trip. Like,
Yes.
Thank you so much. It's been great to be here and such an honor to be with two women who obviously have lots of wisdom.
Thank you.
Thank
thanks,
you.
Thank you so
Melissa. We
much.
look forward to staying connected.
Yes.
Good
Mhm.
convo.
Yes, yes. And
Yum.
I love that it goes back to knowing yourself. What do you want to do with
Right.
your money? What brings you joy? What brings your family joy? So it's like the self-care, the community care. And
Yep.
we have, if I know we have some viewers, if y'all see this URL on the bottom of the screen, thewayintowealth.com. This is how you can find Melissa online. And she has her product offerings and the different steps. You can set up a call with her. Um,
And we'll
but
put
it
all that in the show notes too. So if you're
excellent.
driving, you can check back in
You
at
can snag it.
womenconnectedinwisdom.com.
Yeah. And when we talk about planning, sometimes planning causes stress, sometimes it brings anxiety, these things, but I feel like that's only a margin of the time, right? It depends on what's going on. A lot of times for me, it creates more space. Me knowing that, hey, this
Right.
is our goal, this is what the plan is. I'm okay with realistic expectations of stuff shifting, or maybe we have to edit it after things not going to plan. We know that's going to be every day that ends in Y. But a lot of times, if you've looked at it, if you know the numbers, and like
Gives you ease.
it gives you more ease.
Hmm.
So yes, if you need support and you feel like you're a good fit to work with Melissa, please check her out and make that season of transition easier for your life. I was on the other end. I had to put down the jackets that had bed bugs. I was getting bit on the way out. I said, yeah, I can't take anything. And there was
Hmm.
barely anything for me to take. And that was a blessing in my situation in the way that it was. But super excited to build it and to know that whether you have wealth or not, these are the numbers you need to know to go to the next step. So I'm going to check out the financially fit kids for the guy kids. I like to own it,
Right.
for the
Right.
family. I'm thinking
So
about this
many good
family
resources.
and the family culture, that you could set up to make it sustainable. I love it.
Right.
Anything
Right.
else, anything else you want to say to our audience? Anything they should know?
Well, just that we have a couple more episodes, and
Yeah.
then we're going to take a little break for a
Okay.
couple of weeks, and then we're going to come back with our episode 200 show.
Yes,
So
we are.
save the date. Episode 200 is coming up on July 16th,
Mm,
and it's going to be exciting. We're
it's
going to
gonna
have
be
some we're going to have some special guests and some celebration and all kinds of fun
yeah, we
things.
are. Mm,
We should probably also do some giveaways, like of
mm,
some Women Connecting Wisdom books. That'd be
mm.
fun.
Yeah,
We'll have
let's
to
talk
think
about
that through.
we
Let's
can have
talk
fun
about
with
that.
it.
We got
We're gonna
time.
have a good time. Thank
All
you all
right.
so much for joining us for another week. 197 episodes. We'll be back live at 5 next Wednesday. In the meantime, be well, be wise, be whole.